Welcome again to the Tone Tomb. I want to introduce you to my very first electrical guitar. I bought this in the summer of 1983. I assume it's an 83 G&L, but it could be an 82. These were the first guitars that came out of the G&L Fullerton factory. These ones had the Mustang cut. A little later they'd have the actual Stratocaster type bouts put into them. Another interesting thing is that this has the original headstocks. If you know your G&L history, you know that somebody went after Leo Fender and made him change the headstock. And it wasn't Bigsby, it was Fender. So, but anyways, I had this guitar. This was my only electric guitar for about a year. And I basically replaced it with a Les Paul. And then this thing just sat in its case for 30 something years. And I didn't discover it again until we moved and moved and moved. And somehow it was always with our stuff. And when I opened it up, I couldn't believe that I had forgotten all about this. I used to call her my Blue Angel. And an interesting thing again is these are Leo Fender's final designs, you know, and basically these MFD pickups were his last pickups design. He thought they were superior to everything else that he'd ever done, but again, by then he was deaf. So, and then this was his dual fulcrum bridge, which he thought was far and above everything else he'd ever done, and it's okay, it's all right. So, and there's a very thin neck too, very, very thin neck. Almost like what you'd expect to see like in the late 50s. And I guess he thought those were the things. And one of the things, I've always kept this guitar, and for some reason, somehow, some way, I've always kept my very first amp. I bought this amp probably about the time I bought this. I bought it in 1993. I got it at Guitar Center in Santa Ana. And I think I paid about 50 bucks for it. I think this was the cheapest amp you could possibly buy. This amp has followed me around my entire time in the Navy. It literally, I literally thought I left it on my ship. I never thought I'd ever see it again. It sat in our aft lounge in the reactor department for years. Everybody who played guitar played through this amp. It just sat in the lounge. And when I flew off the ship, I basically had 2 minutes notice. I basically flew off in the clothes I was wearing, and my friends boxed all my stuff up and sent it to me, and this thing was in the box. Like I said, I didn't have any intention of ever bringing it with me. And this was in the garage, and I was actually wondering if it still worked. I hadn't played it, plugged through it. I thought it kind of neat to play my very first guitar through my very first amp and see what it sounded like, because I don't even remember. It's been 35, 40 years. So, it hasn't blown up, that's good. So, this would have been, if you came by my house when I was a kid, or if you were in the barracks with me, or this is my guitar, and this is what it would have sounded like. So it's kind of, you know, I always remember this being very harsh sounding. Maybe it's because, let me put some more master volume on it. So it doesn't really change too much. But that's just it, so it's kind of an interesting thing. One of the interesting thing I found on this amp was the old electrical tag on the ship. The electrician is king, because every electrical thing you own has to be safety checked by an electrician, and of course, you'll see on here that it's my signature. I safety check my own stuff. I don't even think I probably safety checked all my friends' stuff. So anyway, so that's kind of an interesting thing. Now, you probably wonder, well, what does this sound like through a real amp? Because I always remember this thing being harsh, always sounding harsh. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play it through Fender Tweed 63 Champ, and that's probably the best amp you'll ever use to determine what a guitar really sounds like. It's got 3 tubes, it's a Class A, 4 resistors. So let's hear what this thing sounds like through an old classic Tweed. All right, so now we got it. This is plugged into the Champ, and this is actually a really good sounding guitar. These MFD pickups, they kind of remind me of the old P90s. This is going to be in the neck position. This is the double position between the two. And here's the bridge position. it's just it's an old, it's a student model. It's the last of the Leo Fender designs, and it's kind of a, you know, it's kind of a novel thing. I'm surprised I still have it, and I'll never get rid of it. Wife wants me to get rid of the old Roland, and I'm thinking, well, now that I know it works, maybe I won't. Not positive. All right, might as well hear what this thing sounds like through the Princeton Reverb. This is like one of the best small, you know, the low volume, get a lot out of it. So this is what this thing sounds like to a Princeton Reverb. This will give you a great idea of the kind of guitar this really was. There's a bridge pickup. Here's the neck pickup. Guitar through any amp, and it's a keeper. So if you can find these old G&Ls, they're great guitars. Thank you. We'll see you again.